My name is Edna. Sitting in a quaint house with a yard and a porch I bought, looking at the foundation plaque and my parents' name, my mind drifts back to that fateful day at the attorney's office. I remember clearly Mr. Thompson, the 65-year-old attorney who had handled my parents' legal affairs for over 25 years, was slowly reading the will. My sister Ophelia sat there with her hands folded, confidence oozing from every pore, as she always did when she expected to win something. I was there out of sheer confusion, with no legal claim to contest, just a sinking feeling that something was terribly off. Mr. Thompson had been listing the primary assets, our family home in the suburbs, the savings accounts, and the cars. Then he paused, looked up at Ophelia, and in his calm, professional voice with an underlying weight, he asked, "Are you sure you understand the will?" "All of it." Ophelia smiled, thinking it was a strange question. She assured him that she had read it thoroughly. Mr. Thompson nodded once and turned to the next page, a page Ophelia clearly hadn't seen. As he kept reading, the air in the room shifted. I watched Ophelia's expression change in a way I'll never forget. Her smile didn't vanish immediately, it melted away slowly, like ice under a warm sun, as Mr. Thompson's voice filled the silence with unexpected words. Words about a secondary trust, an account established 13 years ago, managed separately, and completely hidden from the estate Ophelia thought she'd inherited. $30 million. It was hidden in plain sight, left entirely to me. I didn't fully grasp it until Mr. Thompson repeated the figure. It was stated so calmly, like a man who had delivered life-altering news many times before and knew how to let it land without shattering everything. The trust was set up by my father, a 60-year-old accountant known for his quiet nature and shrewd financial acumen. The trust had its own account number, a long trustee history, and a paper trail going back over a decade. My name was on every page, while Ophelia's was nowhere to be found. She stared at the document in Mr. Thompson's hands, as if trying to see through it with her intense gaze. Her face turned as pale as a ghost. Her neatly folded hands were now pressed firmly against the armrests of her chair. She asked if there was some kind of error. Mr. Thompson politely told her there wasn't, explaining that both our parents had established the trust with full knowledge and intention, verified by 2 independent attorneys, and it was specifically designed to stay outside the primary estate to ensure a smooth transfer to me. This revelation made me reflect on how little I knew about my father. He was always so private about his finances. I knew he was careful, but I had no idea that for over a decade, he had been quietly building this safety net for me. Sitting there, listening to Mr. Thompson explain the trust, I felt a complex mix of emotions. It wasn't triumph or relief, it was a blend of grief and the overwhelming realization that my father had seen so much, remained silent, and loved me in his own quiet, protective way. Ophelia left the office without a word to me. I heard the clicking of her high heels on the tile floor of the hallway and then the heavy front door closing behind her. Just silence. It all started when news of my parents' death reached me. They were on their way back from a charity event when their car crashed on a country road near our family's ancestral home, a place they'd lived in for 35 years. I got to the hospital first, sitting in the waiting room with a cup of cold coffee in my hands, staring blankly at a non-functioning TV. Ophelia arrived 50 minutes later, dressed as if she was coming from a high-end cocktail party, with a designer dress, expensive jewelry, and a handbag that probably cost more than my annual salary. She gave me a quick, perfunctory hug and then spent the next hour on her phone in the corner. I tried to convince myself that different people handle grief differently. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Our extended family came from 4 different states. People brought food, beautiful floral arrangements, and carefully worded condolences. I cried until I had no more tears left. At the service, Ophelia gave a moving speech that made everyone in the room weep. She was always the more eloquent one, able to perform emotions with such precision that it seemed genuine. I stood beside her at the graveside, holding her hand, thinking that losing our parents would bring us closer. Little did I know, that was the last moment I'd believe in our unity. 3 days after the funeral, Ophelia sat me down at the kitchen table. She had a folder in her hand and an expression I'd never seen before. It was cold, calculated, almost rehearsed. She told me she'd already spoken to the estate attorney. According to her, my parents had updated their will 10 months ago, leaving everything, the house, savings accounts, investment portfolio, to her. She slid a copy of the will across the table like a business contract. I was speechless for a long time. I kept looking at a recipe card on the fridge behind her, with my mother's handwriting on it. It was for my favorite apple pie. I asked her if there was a mistake. She said no. I asked why our parents would leave everything to one of us and nothing to the other. I was the one who visited every weekend, helped my mother with her gardening, and accompanied my father to his doctor's appointments in his last years. Ophelia had no real answer, or maybe she just didn't want to share it. She then gently told me that I needed to move out by the end of the month. She said I could take my personal belongings and the furniture from my old room. She even said she hoped we could stay close. With a heavy heart, I packed my 2 suitcases and a box of photographs and moved into a spare room at a friend's place. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Ophelia hired her own attorney and filed a formal challenge against the trust. She used words like undue influence and lack of transparency, trying to make a case where there was none. But the trust documents were airtight. My father had been extremely meticulous, covering every possible legal loophole. In the end, her challenge was dismissed. I considered moving back into the family home, but I decided against it. The house was rightfully a part of Ophelia's inheritance, and I didn't want to fight over it. What my parents left her was substantial: the house, accounts, and a large sum of money that would be more than enough for most people. She wasn't left with nothing, she just got less than she expected. I understood why it felt unfair to her. Instead, I bought a small house in a neighboring town. It had a yard where I could plant a small garden like my mother used to, and a cozy porch where I could sit and read on sunny afternoons. I also set aside a significant portion of the trust to establish a foundation in my parents' name. The foundation focuses on providing financial assistance to families dealing with long-term medical conditions, just as my father had struggled with his health in his last years. About 4 months after the will reading, I called Ophelia. I didn't call to argue or to make her feel bad. I called because they were our parents, and losing them was the most significant event in both our lives. I thought maybe deep down, she needed someone who understood her pain. But she didn't answer, and she hasn't called me back since. I often think about my father. I imagine him sitting down with Mr. Thompson 13 years ago, making a decision he never shared with me, quietly carrying that secret for all those years. I wonder if he knew how things would turn out. Did he see something coming and was trying to protect me? Or was he just ensuring that I'd be okay no matter what? I'll never have the answers. The fact that the people who love you most sometimes show it in ways you can only understand after they're gone weighs heavily on me. It's a struggle, but I'm learning to live with it. Some days are harder than others, but I'm still here, standing on my own 2 feet, with this house, this yard, and this foundation that will carry my parents' legacy into the world. For now, that's enough.